Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. I'm with Oculus Rift Reviews, now with Windows Mixed Reality. Today we're going to do a review for the Station VR, a game on the Steam store for the HTC Vive Valve Index and the Oculus Rift. It doesn't support Windows Mixed Reality, but it kind of does work. There's a problem with controller bindings. I actually uploaded a controller binding that does work with Windows Mixed Reality, but there's some issues with it. Please see my review on Steam for more details on that. This game normally retails for $9.99, and that's how much I bought it for on the Steam store. It's also available on the Oculus store. This is basically a space station exploration game / walking simulator in space. The puzzles here are a little bit more difficult than your typical walking simulator, so beware of that. If you're expecting a walking simulator in space, just realize the puzzles here are very tricky. And I actually had to cheat and look online for the answers. I did try to solve the puzzles without looking online, but I got stumped on two different puzzles. One of them was to figure out the numbers for the containers, where you have to energize them to turn on some engine, and the other one was the puzzle box, or the container box. I wasn't sure on the process on that, and I guess there was one other puzzle, which was the locker room combination for Silas. I was able to figure out the other combinations for Aiden and for Mila, I believe. But for Silas, I was not able to figure that one out. It's a very odd, poem, riddle, puzzle, and you have to figure out the locker combination from that. And I have no idea what it was referring to. Couldn't figure that one out. The whole game took me about 2.5 hours to finish, but again, that was using an online guide to get through some of the puzzles that I was stuck on. I've seen some walkthroughs that finish this game in 30-40 minutes, so if you know what you're doing, you can definitely finish the game pretty quickly, but I think most people will take about an hour and a half to about as long as I took to finish this game, just depending on how good you are at solving puzzles. A lot of it's just looking around and finding the right clues. There's a lot of object hunting in this game, so beware of that. If you don't like that type of gameplay, this is probably not a game that you'll enjoy playing at all, because object hunting is a major part of this game, whether it's actually finding an actual object or whether it's just reading the right text to figure out the logic behind a puzzle. There is full locomotion and there is snap turning in this game. There's also teleport options. And unfortunately for the turning, there is a vignette effect that you cannot turn off. Now, I did like certain parts of this game. It's very atmospheric. The story itself, although it's very brief and there's not a whole lot of depth to it, was still intriguing to me, and I was interested in solving this mystery, trying to figure out what happened here. Something bad happened just from the fact that it's kind of deserted and you're looking through people's stuff and there's no one around, and creepy stuff happens as you're walking around. So it's very atmospheric, very moody, and you definitely want to figure out this mystery. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, there's not a whole lot to the story. The story is told through some text that you'll find strewn about. There's some audio logs that you'll find, but they're all very short, and there's just not a whole lot of depth to the story or the characters. It's like they did the bare minimum of what would be required to tell a sufficient story, and that's what happens in this case. And I've just played better games of this type. Tacoma in particular comes to mind, as far as a game that involves a mystery on an abandoned space station where you kind of have to figure out what happened. Definitely Tacoma was a lot better with the characters involved, with more depth to the story. This is all just pretty bare bones, although like I said, the story itself was interesting. It's just very short and there wasn't a whole lot of depth to it. The gameplay did vary a whole lot. So some of the puzzles were actually pretty easy, but then again, you had very difficult puzzles, like I said, that I had to look up online to figure them out. And even after seeing the answers for these puzzles, I still have no idea how they were solved. I imagine some of it just had to do with just finding the right item to get more information on to be able to solve some of these puzzles, but I'm unsure. Overall, while I did enjoy parts of this game, a lot of the game just felt like a major drag. For me, especially, there was a lot of backtracking. Again, I was trying to figure out these puzzles on my own without looking online. And so I had to go back and forth between places I already been, trying to see what I may have missed. And so I did find it a little bit on the tedious side. On the flip side of that, once I did that, I realized that the whole game just isn't very long. There isn't really that many places that you can go explore. And there really isn't much to this game. Like I said, if you know what you're doing, you can finish this game in about 40 minutes. So it just depends on your puzzle proficiency as far as how much content there is here for you. Overall, I do think this is better than the average VR game, but just the game world, the visuals weren't the best. The gameplay wasn't the best either. The puzzles, were very uneven. And just a lot of the interactions were point and click. And for some interactions, you actually have to put your hand, highlight, and pull. Just the interactions were pretty bad overall. So overall, I'm going to give this game a 6 out of 10. While there were some good parts about this game, overall, it just felt like a chore. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.